Hello all, I am Christine and I'm excited to share with you my topic on developing agency and fostering motivation. Inquiry Adventure with you today revolves around the question, what practical strategies can help develop learner agency and motivation in the junior class with a focus on science as aligns with the principles of UDL, and what are some of the barriers to developing learner agency and motivation? So here's a look at our plan. Part one, we'll be talking about what agency is and its link to motivation. Part two, we'll discuss some examples and strategies that we can use to increase motivation. And part three, we'll briefly touch on some barriers and what we can do about them. So before we begin, I'd like to ask you a question. What makes you wake up in the morning? What motivates you? In education today, we're competing with a vast array of technologies and robots. We're preparing students for jobs that we can't even imagine yet. There are ample more resources available to students today at the tip of their fingers, including artificial intelligence. These and many more facts about the evolution of education requires us to shift away from traditional teacher-centered models, where students are passive recipients of information, towards a more student-centric approach that encourages critical thinking, problem solving, and creates a lifelong learner who has the skills and competencies needed to venture into the future. So, how do we get the students ready? How do we motivate them? How do we make them want to get out of bed in the morning and learn? And how do we equip them by helping them develop agency? These are some of the questions that we'll explore together. UDL encourages the development of flexible methods, materials, and environments that make learning accessible, inclusive, and challenging for learners. It aims at embracing variability, minimizing barriers, recognizing that they are in the instructional design and not in the learners, and they help develop learner agency. For today, we'll be focusing on the last point. Learner agency is an intricate combination of students having a say in their experiences, playing an active role in the decision-making process, and are personally invested throughout the process by their sense of responsibility. CAST, the makers of UDL, had another term before. They used expert learners. It wasn't until the 2024 update that they replaced this term by putting more focus on learner agency. This change was made in response to concerns that the term expert made it seem like the learning process was finite. It also didn't take much into account the importance of collective knowledge generation and the natural abilities and strength of the learners. So when we're talking about choice, we're talking about when it comes to engagement. So how providing options for welcoming interest, sustaining effort, and accounting for social emotional capabilities in the class. For representation, so allowing the students to decide with what format they'd like to learn, and options for action and expression, letting them choose how they want to portray their understanding and knowledge acquisition. Learner agency, it's all about letting them ask their questions, how it relates to curiosity, defining their own goals, making plans to try answer them. Learner agency is about applying their knowledge in various contexts by making connections, facing challenges, and overcoming failure. Learner agency also implies them being risk takers, and this has a lot to tie with growth mindset. Self-efficacy is very tied to agency, and it appears to be the largest motivator to the junior learner. Self-efficacy is not a general sense of confidence, but it's tied to specific tasks or domains. So it is task specific. For example, a student can think, I can figure this out, the specific science problem versus I'm confident in general. It influences effort and persistence. People with high self-efficacy are more likely to put in the effort, persist through challenges, and recover from setbacks because they do believe they can succeed. It is also dynamic and changeable because it decreases and increases based on experiences, feedback, and personal growth. So how do we, as teachers, allow students to develop their self-efficacy? Well, we do need to step aside a little and go from a more directive role to a more consultative role. According to the UDL framework, we can help create an environment that encourages agency, which is purposeful. That means it comes with internalized self-efficacy and is meaningful on a personal and social level. That is reflective, so it encourages self-awareness, metacognition. Students can identify their own internal and external motivators. Agency that is resourceful, so understands and applying assets, strengths, resources, that is authentic, so it encourages deeper understanding of the subject matter in ways that are actually genuine. Agency that is strategic, so learners are able to set goals and make plans to achieve them. And finally, agency that is action-oriented, whether it is self-directed or in collaboration with others. Agency and motivation are interrelated, and here are some ways how they are interrelated. Agency means ownership of learning. This autonomy is driven by intrinsic motivation. When students have set goals, that gives them purpose, and this fuels their motivation. Also, offering choices encourages agency, and because those choices are often based on the student's interests, this fuels their motivation. Agency also enables students to reflect on their learning. This helps them develop competence through self-directed actions, which leads again to motivation because they're able to see themselves as capable learners and they're able to learn from their mistakes. Agency makes students feel empowered and confident, so they associate learning with positive emotions, and that gives them motivation to learn. Basically, a motivated student will exercise agency. We can motivate students through a variety of strategies. I chose 5 to focus on together with. So first, make it relevant. Second, make it challenging. Third, make it surprising. Fourth, take it outside. And fifth, make it a together thing. So for the next few slides, we'll be exploring how to apply each of these strategies. Teens have the need for curriculum to be presented in a context that's meaningful to them. They need to see how their talents can be enhanced by this newly acquired knowledge and how they can confidently apply the skills in a meaningful way to their lives outside of school. So these connections are crucial for motivating them. Encouraging agency by allowing them to think and formulate their questions. How is this relevant to me? Why is it important to me? What difference does it make if I know this? Presenting them with authentic, challenging problems in the world can help them see things like that. Helping them design things and create products for their communities or the world. It can be something as simple as an infographic, a small program, which is an opportunity to practice coding, or a physical product. Taking them on field trips to let them see the real world. It could be a museum, the zoo, a conservation area, a science center. This allows them to make connections with what they're learning in class. And if we can't go on field trips, perhaps inviting guest speakers that do work in the field. This can give them perspective and inspire them. In Harvard's article, Educating for Global Competency, they discuss the global competence framework and the importance of it. Investigations, exploring various perspectives, communicating ideas, and taking actions. All these help students develop agency and be engaged and motivated learners. In the article, they also give an example of a grade 4 student who was so moved by books such as Anne Frank, and she wrote an essay to raise awareness, and it led to her winning the upper primary category of Amnesty International's Young Human Rights Reporter of the Year in 2010. Another great way to help students find relevance is to encourage them to ask about their impact. The UN's Sustainable Development Goals is an example of something we can integrate in many lessons and many subjects to show students how they can make a difference in the world with their skills and their knowledge. Let's make it challenging. Desirable difficulties is a learning theory that suggests a certain amount of challenge can improve long-term learning. It aligns with the growth mindset. Just the right amount of challenging can be motivating. Research also suggests that it excites students about topics that bore them before. So, what are these better conditions of learning that, while apparently creating difficulty, actually lead to more durable and flexible learning? Some of them include varying the conditions of learning rather than keeping them constant and predictable. Because if they are constrained, then they are contextualized. Material is easily retrieved in that context. So if there's a delay or different context, learning is not supported. Another way would be interleaving instruction on separate topics, so spiraling, versus grouping instruction by topic, so blocking. Although short-term performance can seem better with blocking, research shows that interleaved practice results in superior long-term retention. Another way is spacing rather than massing, so leaving some time before revisiting the same subject. This works memory and helps recall knowledge on the long run. If a sugar cube will not ignite from a lit match, do you think it will ignite if we sprinkle ashes on it first? Many are inclined to say no, but actually it will because the ashes act as a catalyst. The world is full of wonders and fascinating things. If we can bring those to the class, we will surely motivate students. In the article, Motivate the Unmotivated with Scientific Discrepant Events by Emmett Wright, we describe how, by surprising the mind through unexpected results following a scientific discrepant event, we can spark curiosity, which can in turn fuel motivation. Starting with these fascinating phenomena, teachers can then initiate an inquiry-based learning experience, which will foster agency. Solid evidence suggests that students' engagement, intrinsic motivation, enjoyment, self-determination, and physical activity levels are significantly higher during outdoor adventure-based courses as compared to traditional settings. So take it outside. Research suggests that curiosity grows when students are able to share their ideas with each other, and that agency can develop through the development of social skills. In a Science Direct article entitled Putting the Social into Learner Agency, it highlights two findings. They write that learner agency is socially constructed and is socially distributed. Students have admitted to being more motivated when they work together, feeling more empowered and more eager to learn through their collective support. One way of doing that is gamifying learning. For example, a scavenger hunt, a friendly competition. These can encourage students to learn, be motivated to work together, and develop agency. Having a fixed as opposed to a growth mindset can affect motivation and in turn agency. Some mental health conditions such as anxiety and depression can also stand in the way. The lack of self-regulation or the ability to deal with stress is also another factor. Although we won't get into details on how to deal with each of these, it is important to recognize that the lesson design must account for such factors and allow to work around them in order to help students develop resilience. It's all about small steps, and here are some ways we can work around these barriers. First of all, let's teach students directly and explicitly about agency and motivation. Let's show them the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Explain to them that knowledge, intelligence, and skills can be developed and that research supports that. Addressing socio-emotional topics is also important to helping students overcome some of these mental health concerns that might be hindering their motivation and their ability to acquire agency. A simple way is to engage in motivation and perseverance activities from time to time. The government's initiative supporting Minds inspired School Mental Health Ontario resource, which is a gem full of activities that can help, are ready to use and proven effective. The approaches to learning, for example, Lance King's workbook, also has inspirations for exercises that can be done in class to help students find their motivation. Exposing students to some motivational reminders, posters, and messages can help add a little bit of positive in their day. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you found some of these resources useful.